Well, welcome everybody. It's my pleasure to be here with Achaniam Nini Barak. I've completely mispronounced that, haven't I?
That's right.
Which is why you call yourself Noah. So correct me, how do I...
This is going to be a nice way to start our session, right? My name is Achinoam. Achinoam in Hebrew means sister of peace. Achinoam, right? And now I'll tell you a really funny story here, okay? Years ago, I was performing in Canada with this really popular host in a big show. And he said, well, I did my show, and he said, thank you very much to Janini and Gildor. His name is easy.
That's easy.
And I'm like, okay. So I went on to this.
And I should say, I deliberately didn't ask you how to pronounce your name.
Exactly.
Because I know...
You wanted me to say that.
Because I wanted to be wrong. Actually, because I know that you chose to call yourself Noah.
Exactly.
Because you knew that it would be a challenge.
Of course, when we wanted to be able to communicate with people more freely.
Right.
And also Noah is beautiful. It's Noah was the first feminist in the Bible. She was the first woman in the Bible to fight for women's rights. So that's a great name. And also Noah stands for not only Achinoam, which means that everything we do, you know, look, you see Gildor here, has been my musical director for 30 years.
I was going to ask you, so how long have you two been working together?
This is an interesting story. It's part of the things that I have to contribute here. I would say she was my student in the music school. The school was established in 1985. We're talking last century. and it was a special school that meant to actually reestablish the musician, the term musician, as both a performer and composer together without the typical separation that is common. And for that, to make that happen, we actually had a very special profile of students we accepted. We accepted people with absolutely no background, not necessarily. They could have a lot of experience, but experience and knowledge was not a requirement. The requirement was a good ear and a good musical instinct and creativity. And that's how Noah got accepted, because she was a fantastic singer that already had experience in a military Israeli band, but she had no knowledge, no theoretical knowledge, not even voice lessons or anything. And that was really perfect for the profile of the student that we were aiming for.
So you guys met and then found that it was more than just a student-teacher relationship. Actually, you could work together. And am I fast-forwarding a little bit?
Sure. No, the school was invited to present in a festival in Tel Aviv. And it was just the beginning of the academic year, and there were no ensembles ready for anything serious. So the principal said to Gil, just get something together. You know? And he offered it to me as his student. Why don't we do a student-teacher collaboration? Wow. Which turned into this 32-year collaboration.
32 years, which is amazing considering you're both in your 20s. I don't know how you...
Well, really interesting that it was such a surprise for me. The impact of that single gig in the little tiny venue was so big that on me too. So I went home late at night and I called my great musician acquaintance and friend, Pat Metheny, called America and left a message.
You know who Pat Metheny is here? He's like this phenomenal guitarist which won about 1 billion Grammys. And he's a hero. I mean, for every musician.
Huge musician.
He's a hero.
So I called him and I told him, listen, I just ran across this extreme talent and she's going to visit her parents in America, so I gave her your number and you must hear her. And immediately after that, we started the career of 32 years.
And he did.
He produced
our really short. He listened to the music I was writing at the time, really loved it, offered us to produce an album. He did. He asked Gil to play the guitar. He was just the producer. It was amazing. He brought us personally to David Geffen in Los Angeles. Wow. And Geffen Records signed us. And that's how we started our international career.
Let's do two things.
From zero.
From zero, which is, I guess,
it was amazing.
Most careers start there, and then you find yourself here, and you kind of think, wow.
Now we're in Davos. See, it was all for this.
Let's do two things with this conversation. Let's talk about your artistic journey, and then also let's talk about your understanding about the world and you know your way you view the world. So in 1995, let's start here though, because I think it's crucial. In 1995, Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated.
Yeah.
He was shot. He was hit by 2 bullets. Died in the hospital. And you were there.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
And this is, yeah, that's interesting. It's still impactful.
Yeah, it very, very much. Yeah. So I was already very popular in Israel at the time. You know, I was filling big holes. We had a very successful album out, and everything was great. I was a sweetheart with the Israeli public. and then the mayor of Tel Aviv called me and said that he was organizing a big peace rally in Tel Aviv to support Yitzhak Rabin and Shimon Peres as they embarked on the Oslo agreements. And he asked if I was willing to sing. And I said, well, yeah, of course, it's a great honor for me to do that. And he said, oh, great, lucky, because, I can't get any artists to come. And I said, what do you mean? I mean, I thought everybody would consider it a huge privilege. But, it's sensitive that way. Just artists many times will just not put themselves in any position where they can be maybe criticized or... So there were no major artists there.
Which I should say now, I think, more than ever, for many artists around the world, that is, don't go near politics is something that we've seen.
I think that in general, artists, I mean, there are those that do, they're the Jeanne d'Arcs, they stand there on the barricades and they do their thing, but many will not. It's a personal choice, Kier,
Yeah.
And I think there's a price to pay this way or that, depending how you look at it.
Well, I took you away anyway from telling the story.
So I was really happy to be there and proud to be there. And it was a happy event. There were hundreds of thousands of people. It was huge. And people were saying, we don't want, we want peace, no to violence, yes to peace. And he was speaking, and we were singing the Shir LaShalom, which is this amazing song for peace. And just, I finished my performance. We went down the stairs. A few minutes later, he went down the same stairs and was killed. And that for me was horribly traumatic. Really, I mean, I couldn't believe it. And
do you remember the moment?
I remember the moment. Of course, it's a traumatic moment. Yeah. I remember the moment. I remember how I felt. I remember how devastated I was. And then I decided that it was not enough to simply entertain people. I had a role to play, being as that I had a key to people's hearts. I had a role to play, and I would pick up the torch that had fallen. And be outspoken about the need for peace.
And we should say that for you have different pieces of your heritage. Yemen, Israel,
yes.
United States, and that's an important part of the story.
That's also an important part of the story, of course. I'm an Arabic Jew, actually. I'm a citizen of Israel, very proud citizen of it. I love Israel. I didn't grow up in Israel. I grew up in the United States, so I have that too. And if you want to add to the mess, my parents moved when I was a year old to the United States. They sent me and my brother to yeshiva, it's a religious Jewish school. So I got a religious Ashkenazi Jewish education, but I'm a Yemenite secular Israeli Jew. And the way that,
Actually, it's just kind of beautiful, actually.
Yeah, and what saved me was music. I would write songs about all these things. I would write poetry, and I would excel in. I loved, by the way, religious Jewish studies. I still do. But also, of course, history and physics and math, and I had a broad view of the world, and it was wonderful. But anyway, I chose Israel as my home. I made Aliyah, because I fell in love with an Israeli guy, which is another story, who's my husband, by the way, today. and then I went to the army, to like everybody in Israel does. For many people, that's also a mystery, what the army means for the Israeli public, but it's really different from every other country in the world. And I was singing, as Gil also was a guitarist in the army. I was a singer in the army. And then went on, and you heard it. But anyway, what happened then after that murder was that I made these statements, and that's what brought me to Davos. We just have to close that little circle. Because when I started making these statements, I had a big interview in Newsweek at the time. And I was saying all these, making strong statements about peace and the necessity for peace. And it was picked up by somebody here at the World Economic Forum.
And so in that moment with Prime Minister Rabin, you are somebody who, through your heritage, actually is someone with a mix of influences and understands that the world is not black and white.
Yeah.
And then you're there at a moment of extremism, and those two things clash.
Yeah. I think that the most important point to make is, as I see it, is the role of the artist, as I see it. The artist always has the ability to see the world as much more complex than black and white. That's what we deal with. We deal with human complexity. So I have it inbred in my identity, as does Gil, as does everyone, actually. I know your personal story too. So you also have moved from one place to another, and you have all these things in your own identity. And so the moment you are able to see the world in a broader way, the moment you are able to see yourself reflected in the other, and I think that's a key to all of that, then you realize, okay, there's no reason not to try to build a bridge. And you know, in my family, I have a lot of officers, you know, commanders in the army. Really, I have to say that my great-great-grandparents came from Yemen to Israel. And they fought in the Haganah, and they fought, you know, we have a history of people really fighting for Israel's independence, said, okay, we know how to fight. We know how to fight. So now we can make peace. Peace demands an enormous amount of courage. And I think that was from that point of view, and to fulfill the dream of living in Zion, in peace, in our homeland, in peace, peace was a major issue for me and remains.
So let's now fill in the journey, if you like, and you two go on this journey together, Gil, and can we frame artistically, musically, what happens over the coming years as you continually searching to try and reach out across borders and across cultures?
Well, let me just make one remark about the Rabin incident to make it even more I think dramatic, not dramatic, but interesting is that at the time we were very worried about how many people will show up for the rally, and everybody was scared. And then we came, and there were thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and we were so overjoyed, and we decided to perform a hit song of ours at the time that was called Paranoia. And it was all about how unnecessary the paranoia was. And then minutes later, it reversed in the most horrible. So the drama for us was like, the shock was unbelievable. So now here we are on the journey, as you've asked. And after this first international album produced by Pat Metheny for Geffen Records, we started to dovetail our albums for the Israeli market in Hebrew and for the international market in English, which is actually the primary language of Noa, as you hear. So her poetry is 95%, I would say, in English. I did some of the writing in Hebrew, and then we, of course, used some great poets to do the Hebrew albums. And it was all original stuff. And so we went from exploring very different aspects of music, as our role models was people who really didn't look for the taste of the public, but were really exploring the art of music and songwriting particularly. So what we did is like we thought of things like Beach Boys and Beatles and whoever was very diversified and
so you're artistically you're looking for
searching
for,
and I'm saying that
had
because every project was extremely different. We had a sort of a rock and roll album called Calling in the times of, you know, Nirvana and that kind of stuff, which was more into the alternative emotions of what we have inside about peace, about the world, about love, about anything. And then we have things that were more soothing and looking to us more of a philosophical, mostly
we also explored my Yemenite roots.
And the Yemenite
roots. An album called Jeans and Jeans, which is a really interesting one. And then we had also like very unique opportunities, which
That's it.
Probably mention. One of the big things was performing in the Vatican for Pope John Paul II.
I wanted to get to that. You've performed at Carnegie Hall, at the White House, but with 3 popes.
3 popes, yeah.
Which is
Pope John Paul, Pope Benedict, and Pope Francis.
She's a popular artist.
Definitely.
But that says an enormous amount, doesn't it? About reaching across cultures and borders and religions.
Absolutely. Because the situation was that on that first album produced by Pat Metheny, I recorded a version of Ave Maria, the Bach Gounod Ave Maria, with lyrics that I wrote as a prayer for peace. And that was picked up by the Vatican. And when we went for the first time, I remember, there were hundreds of thousands of people in that huge square. And just the morning, I was sure the Vatican would say, listen, you're very nice that you came from Israel, but you have to sing the Latin prayer. This is one of our most important prayers. Gratia plena Dominus tecum, that whole thing. You can't do your little, And no, not only were they accepting this cross-religious, reaching out.
Almost iconoclastic.
Yeah, almost iconoclastic. They printed it on the front page of the biggest newspaper in Italy called the Corriere della Sera. All the lyrics of the song with an Italian translation were on the front page, which was amazing, really.
This is with John Paul?
This was with John Paul. And John Paul then invited us endless times.
Right.
And we had many audiences with him.
It's interesting because you think of Francis as, I suppose, this is the Catholics watching, and sorry to my Catholic mother, will be not impressed by this simplicity, if you like. But you think of Francis as the one who would be bending the rules the most.
He is.
And yet he
is.
John Paul.
So was John Paul. They were both really extraordinary human beings. We were also invited to sing his funeral, John Paul. So that was really impressive.
Did you have any hesitation when
about singing in the Vatican?
Yeah.
Me, no. No, because for me it was and I have to say that the large majority of Israelis and Jews are very proud of that. They see, wow, what an honor for the Jewish people to have been invited and embraced in that way, for this connection to have been made.
Yeah.
Really, I think that it is an honor for us as Israelis and Jews, and also this beautiful bridge being built by religions. We need to do that. And then there's some people that don't agree. I have a tendency to create those situations, which could be maybe controversial. But I always follow my heart, and I believe, from the value point of view, this was the right thing to do. Mm. And I have to say that also, the Popes are great, but Stevie Wonder and Sting, just as exciting. I just have to mention those so that we don't stay in the Pope zone.
Right. Right. I mean, this is just your musical, 16 albums, your
16
musical
albums,
journey in and of itself.
Hundreds of songs.
Is incredible.
We were fortunate to be able to make music. A life with music is a privilege here. Really. And I also think that music, you choose music, but more than that, music chooses you. And I feel that I was chosen to be the slave of music. Really, you will be my servant, said the God of music. Mm. And why do I say that? Because it's very often a Via Dolorosa, It's not always a joyride. People look at it always as glorious and fun. And that is not so. When you really,
do you find it hard to write?
It's hard. It's hard to expose yourself, to put your soul, in front of the world on a platter in this way.
Let me tell you a very interesting thing about the connection of Davos to our career in a very interesting way. Unfortunately, after the Twin Towers collapsed, they had the horrible incident. Davos WEF was moved for 1 year to New York City. This is 2000.
Solidarity with New York.
Yeah.
Right?
2002, right.
2002. And we were invited to participate there and to sing there. And the musical director of that show, of all the great musicians there, was Quincy Jones. And
that's how we met him for the first time.
We actually, we were supposed to sing something with an Algerian Khaled Sheb Khaled singer, but then I went just like that to Quincy, and I said, listen, there's a song that you must hear before we decide what we go on stage with, and this was like in Yiddish they say chutzpah, and I came and he says okay. And so we played this Ave Maria that she talked about. And they were all like, oh my God, you must sing this. So we did 2 songs. We did the Ave Maria, and this was Davos. And that started a long connection with Quincy Jones to the point that he became the executive producer of our Bach album.
Yeah. We have an album dedicated to Johann Sebastian Bach. And the executive producer is Quincy.
And we visit him every year, and it's incredible.
He's one of our greatest friends and mentors.
You could just enjoy the music, couldn't you? You could actually, all of the politics.
Now the question, so why do you bother with all this?
We do enjoy the music.
Well, but it just, it's interesting that you push yourself.
You know, I tell you something here,
Simply that.
and you know, friends who are listening in the streaming and our friends here in the hall will know. You know, I think that if you were given a voice, it's a huge privilege to have that voice. A voice that can open hearts and minds. And to use it simply to entertain, really, I think that's, you know, no. I feel that I have a mission beyond that, as to use the voice in order to, and this is a phrase we have in Hebrew, which I like a lot, is tikkun olam. Tikkun olam means the fixing of the world. So how can we fix the world? Using what our abilities, any talents we have. Our talents as musicians enable us to reach people in a certain way. And when their hearts and minds are opened, what are we putting in there? And we have been doing that really passionately for all of these years. And maybe this would be the time to say, okay, so we've started with peace, and we always will be promoting peace between Israelis and Palestinians, between people, Arabs and Jews, the entire Middle East. I think there are amazing opportunities now in the Middle East, and we would love to see that happening more and more. I'm going for a first visit, by the way, in the United Arab Emirates. I'm very proud to say, invited by the ambassador of the UAE in Israel to visit the Emirates on a formal visit, to meet cultural leaders, and I'm so happy to be able to build that bridge. And so that's one thing. And then now climate. So, you know, maybe this would be the time to mention the project that actually brought us to Davos this year.
Right.
And that is a project dedicated to the coral reefs of the Northern Red Sea. Mm-hmm. So I'll tell people a little bit about this, even though whoever has seen us, and that we had the incredible opportunity to have a gala evening dedicated here in Davos, and that is thanks to our friend Joseph Fowler from Arts and Culture, who is here and who we adore, who enabled us, who connected this thing to Davos, and Davos embraced, you know, the World Economic Forum embraced this issue of the coral reefs. There's also an amazing installation here in Davos by Refik Anadol, amazing artist who's done the AI-generated corals, which is such a wow. But yeah, this whole evening, I See You, was put on stage here in this incredible place. And so what is this project, the Reefs of Hope? The idea is to try to attain UNESCO Natural World Heritage status for the entire Northern Red Sea. And why? Because the coral reefs in this part of the Red Sea are, beyond being extraordinarily beautiful, are important and particularly resilient. They're important because they're an amazing ecosystem, one of the most important in the world. Millions of people depend on them for their livelihood. Research, by the way, I was not even aware how much research is done on coral reefs for the pharmaceutical industry, for example. So that's one thing. And then research in Israel from Eilat, my colleague and friend, Professor Maoz Fine, has shown that these are the most resilient corals in the world to the rising sea temperatures. So they have not experienced any events of coral bleaching, which have been devastating reefs around the world, which means that we have to protect them. They might be the last reef standing within 50 years.
And they might offer some solutions.
And they might offer solutions, offer information. There's so much to be gained. And beyond that, you have the amazing opportunity of diplomacy between Israel, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Egypt.
And we should let people know, if when people watching, that if they want to talk about this, they can hashtag WEF23, so we can carry on the conversation on social.
Of course. But wait, just to mention finally that we are supporting this with a musical project, and the musical project would be called I See You, and that was the first messenger of that was presented in the beautiful event of the same name here in Davos, and on the stage we had an amazing singer from Jordan. We had an oud player and his brother from Egypt. We had the Morphing Chamber Orchestra, wow, from Vienna. We had Tim Alhoff playing piano. I think he's from, I don't know where he's from, but I think from Europe somewhere. Beautiful musicians from all over. And Anouf, who is this phenomenal scuba diver, female scuba diver from Saudi Arabia, who has this project called the Red Sea Citizens, who is Saudi Arabia's first female technical scuba diver. So she was on stage. So you can imagine all these people together.
It's quite a...
Wow, I mean, that's really thanks to Joseph, I have to say, thanks to Joseph Fowler for enabling, and to Klaus and Hilde for going for this. Wow, I mean, what an opportunity for us to show the world this important cause and the power of music in promoting causes such as these.
Once again, showing your commitment to music and the arts as a way to reach out to people, and also continuing what's in your DNA, which is an understanding of that borders don't have to be kind of, red lines. That
Oh, I have something nice to tell you about that. Wait, Kira, I have to. Look, wait, I have to.
I want to ask you the big question.
No, wait. Look, so singers, right? We're birds. I'm a bird, right? I'm a human manifestation of a bird. People are different animals. You always ask when you're in grade school. I'm a bird. I spread my wings. I fly. I sing. So think about it. A bird that flies, right? She's up there. She can't see borders. You see a border? A border is not something you can see from the sky. You see beautiful landscapes. You see seas. You see amazing things. So that's first, there are no borders. A bird recognizes no borders. But another thing that a bird sees, she sees far and wide. So she can, for example, see a fire over there. She can see a flood. She can see a storm coming. So she says, I have to warn my other birds. So that's where the activism comes from. So you don't see the borders, and so everyone is the same, but you're also conscious enough and wide-viewed enough to see the bigger picture and to bring people into it.
How do you stay so positive? Because there are many folks who are feeling right now like we're living in an era of polarization, where exactly what you guys are talking about.
Okay, I'm going to give you
is swinging against the tide.
I'm going to give you a quote, okay, by one of my favorite people, Shimon Peres. Shimon Peres was, I have to say, was my mentor. He loved me. He would invite me to all of his events, and he tried to get me into politics. He said, "No, you have to get into politics." I said, "No, are you kidding me? I have to be an artist." But he used to say that optimists and pessimists all die the same, but they live differently. And I prefer to live as an optimist. I think that when you are always bringing out a positive vision and working for it, I'm not talking about a silly, naive. No, I don't think anything I say is silly or naive. When I'm talking about peace, I'm being very practical. I mean, I see myself as such. But when I say these things and when I do them, when we do them, we create an energy that has an impact. It makes a difference. I mean, I really think so. What they say about fractals energy, the butterfly wings moving here and something happening on the other side of the world. So we create that energy that makes a change. And I believe that there's an incredible importance to that.
That in Judaism, there is a commandment actually to be happy. You have to be happy.
That's right.
So it's not about being depressed personally sometimes, as any human being are, but it is a mission to keep the
positive energy, the joy.
This is our second claim to fame, the Benini movie.
That's right.
Life is beautiful when life is horrible. But it's a belief that life is beautiful that keeps you alive, not checking the facts and getting depressed about it, to the point that this is a message you give your child.
And making it beautiful. Making it beautiful.
So she is recruited to optimism on a very general
part of the mission.
sense.
And not worrying that you might be attacked.
Oh, I'm attacked all the time here.
Too late.
Yeah, I'm attacked all the time. But that's okay for me. First of all, a friend of mine, I have this great friend who's a songwriter. He once wrote a song inspired by me, which was, if no one wants to kill you, how important can you be? So I'm saying, if you're not doing anything interesting, of course nobody wants to, kill you, isn't it?
Yeah, that's incredibly powerful because of the beginning of our conversation.
Yes. But I'm laughing about it. I won't tell you.
It's amazing that you can laugh about it.
Yeah, I've received death threats, and I'm smiling. I'm still here. Yay! But that's okay. I also have a lot to really a lot of support. I know that I'm the voice of many people who don't have that voice.
But, because we're really having a conversation about what life is about.
Yeah.
And the role of music and art in life.
Yes, we are.
And what it meant to witness what happened with Prime Minister Rabin and all of these things.
Yeah. I'd like to say that all of these things, Kier, have given my life such meaning. I mean, really. I get up every day with a sense of mission. First of all, I want to be the absolute best musician I possibly can be. I'm a humble servant of the God of music, really. And that's about making your ego very small and making the music and the art as big as possible, one. And second, once I've gotten to the highest level I possibly can attain, I would like to use that power and light and energy to make the world a better place. Full stop. That's what I'm busy doing in every way that I can. Wherever I see that I can have an impact and an influence, I try to do that in the best way I can.
When you talk about what life is, I think we have to look at art and music not as a thing, but rather as a mode of perception. We all know that when we walk into a gallery or a museum, and then after 2 hours we walk out, every little lamppost looks like a piece of art.
That's right.
Because our mode of perception have been shifted, because art deals with the design of things, not with their function. And so it's a different mode of living and mode of perception, which is a real privilege for artists. And music, any noise can be music. It's all about the framing. If you hear it in a John Cage piece, then it's music. If you hear it in the street, it is noise. And when you are able to shift the minds of people to this mode of perception, then you can put any message you want. Because you separate the message from the noise. When you look at Rafik and Abdul work, you will never look at information the same.
Wow, he's amazing.
Because he uses information and data
and creates
creating art, and that shifts your mode of perception. And that is an opportunity. The shift of perception is the opportunity to convey a message. And this idea of conveying a message on the wings of art is how art and music are catalysts for change, and which is a framing of this whole session.
Yeah.
And let me tell you one last thing that we've done, and this is our last thing we've done.
Thought,
yeah. Well, we've this year two beautiful things happened. First of all, we established a festival of our own, a music festival in the north of Italy, called Noah's Ark. And we also opened a foundation of the same name, Noah's Ark. Now, Noah's Ark Festival is meant to bring people from different conflict regions around the world together, different musical genres together. Tickets are offered for a very, very low price, so everybody can come and enjoy the music. It's values and music together. That's the idea. Noah's Ark Foundation, again, is meant to support our climate projects and all the other projects that we're dealing with now, like the festival, and just to make sure that values and art have a home in an ark that we carry over turbulent waters to a place of peace.
So that's fantastic to end with something that people can plug into. People can.
Yeah, please join us in Noah's Ark.
Yeah. I have to say this conversation has been like a kind of medicine.
It's been so great. Now. Thank you so much. You were wonderful. Toda rabba here. And to all of you, thank you so much.